Shabbat shalom, everybody, and you're welcome to the Shabbat of this morning. We glorify the name of the Lord our God, the King of the universe, for giving us the opportunity to be here and to be able to reach the last book of the Torah. And we are reading the book of Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy this morning. And after that, we are going to read, when we finish the entire book of Devarim by the grace of God, we are going to roll the Torah back to the book of Bereshit, and we're going to start anew. We thank the Lord for making it possible for us to see and to reach this point of the journey so far. We need to understand that it's a journey. It is what? A journey. So every year we take this journey every year. So we thank our God because our eyes can behold and see this beautiful day and this time in the land of the living. I'm sorry about that. So the parasha of this morning is Parshas Devarim, and I subtitle it "Blowing the Words to the World." Just like the shofar is being blown, our responsibility, our job in this physical world is to blow the word of the Torah to the ends of the world, to the ends of the earth, to every human being, for them to hear the true word of the Torah of life, the Torah that was given on Mount Sinai by God through Moshe Rabbeinu, that we will have direction. Remember, I always say that this world is like wilderness. The world that we live in, I say, oh, Rabbi, I live in Montreal, or Rabbi, I live in Canada. Canada is not a wilderness. There is no desert. But what I'm trying to let you to let you understand is the world itself is a wilderness. This world is a land of the unknown. It is only God that created it that know everything. So there's a lot of pit, there is a lot of holes, there is a lot of serpent, that there's a lot of negativities, that is filled in this world. And without the Torah, you can put your leg in a place that is not desirable. You can step on the serpent and the serpent can bite you, and then you'll be in trouble. So that is why we need the Torah as a guard. The Torah is our guide in this physical world to lead us into the world to come, to lead us so that we can be able to inherit, the Garden of Eden. Because our ultimate goal, by the grace of God, is for us to enter back into the Garden of Eden. As I said, that Devarim in Talmud is always called Mishneh Torah. That is what it's called in the Talmud. And what does it mean? This means the repetition or the review of the entire Torah. So Devarim is kind of they call it a summary of the entire Torah. So in this book, we can see that Moshe Rabbeinu begins to tell us again all the things that happen. Everything that happened from day one to the present time that they are. And also remember, why is Moshe Rabbeinu giving all this summary? Remember that after 40 years, this is now after the 40th year of them living Mizraim, Egypt. So the people that left Egypt, most of them have already died in the wilderness. So it is only their children now that is now present. So most of those children, they might be small, or they might be just a little kids, that when all these things happen and they do not remember most of those things that happen. So it is the job of Moshe Rabbeinu, now to explain to these children, this new generation, because they didn't remember most of the things that happened. So it is now the job of Moshe to remind them all the process that happened. And the few ones that were there, they were able to do or to justify what Moshe Rabbeinu was saying. So it is now the children of those people that left the Mizraim. It is not the children of those that left Egypt that Moshe Rabbeinu is communicating with. So that's why I want you to understand this, very, very important. That it is after the 40th year that Moshe begins to summarize, begins to repeat, begins to review the Torah to the children of the people that left Egypt. Remember that God said that their leg will not enter into the promised land because of their iniquity, because of their disbelief, because of them not believing in God. So therefore, they were God sworn that they will never step into the promised land, and so it is the children that Moshe is communicating with now, just like a father. Moshe understand, and Moshe know that it's time to go has come, and this in his mind is a kind of pain that he's going to leave these children alone, and so therefore his job is to impart the Torah in their life, to tell them this is what the Lord your God has promised you, and this is what the Lord your God has done for us, that we can understand the promise that God has promised our forefathers, so that we can live in that promise. So open virtually any parasha in the Torah, and you will find something that look totally extraneous to the portion. That means irrelevant, or that is unrelated to the portion that we discuss about. Yet, sometimes this extraneous diversion or this irrelevant diversion usually ignored in the sermons or in the Torah by some rabbis, concern some of the most important principles of the Hebrew life. Take, for example, Devarim. The bulk of the portion is essentially the beginning of Moshe's valedictory address, in which he retells the history of the Israelites in the desert, explaining and adapting the details to the homiletical purpose of for the purpose of his preaching or his teaching or the sermon that he's teaching them. Okay, which means that this is the time that Moshe Rabbeinu is saying farewell to these children, because they are what? The children. Remember I said these are the descendants of the people that left Egypt, right? So he's saying to them farewell. He understands that it's time to leave them as come, and he, as a father, is painful to him to let them to just leave them like that, because they are young, and these are young, vibrant, new generation. Moshe began his farewell address. He reviews the journey from Sinai to Kadesh-Barne'a and the appointment of the assistants, the journey to Horeb to Kadesh-Barne'a, the people refusal to enter the land of Canaan, and then the allotment of the land. So he begins to give them step by step. This is what God did. This is from the journey from Mizraim to Sinai to Kadesh, and from there I appointed judges, because remember that when his father-in-law came, Yitro advised Moshe to appoint judges, that he cannot bear the people of Israel alone. They cannot carry them alone. This thing is too much for you. You have to have assistants that can assist you in judging minor matters. But the big one that they cannot judge, they will bring to you, and you will judge. So he explained all these things to them. And again, he reminds them the refusal of the people when the spies came to bring the negative report about the land. I also explained to them about the 2.5 tribes that were given land on the other side, or the western side of the Jordan River. Okay, so this is on the eastern side of the Jordan River. So we can see all the things that Moshe Rabbeinu is telling and explaining to the people. Rashi says that Moshe was reviewing. He is talking about the rebellions that followed the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai, when the people rebel against God and they begin to serve and they begin to worship the golden calf. You rewind the people that he had once said in Deuteronomy chapter 1 verse 12, how can I alone carry your load, your burden, and your fighting? Rashi noticed the triplet about how can I carry you alone, your load, your burden, and your fighting? He asks, why did Moshe say load, burden, and strife, which means fighting? What does each one of these words means? Your load, he said, it refers to the Israelite involvement in trials. Moses is telling us that the Israelites were difficult to have as a litigant. That means in the case of a lawsuit, when one of them saw that his opponent in a lawsuit was about to win the case, the soon-to-be a loser will say, I have another witness to bring. I have more evidence to add. I want to add another judge to the court and thereby convolute and distort the process of justice. He said that is what it means by the word the law. In the sense that most of our people, when they know that they are about to lose, they begin to look for excuses. Oh no, I have another evidence, I have another witness, I have this and that. Or you know what, I don't like these judges, they are bad judges. They don't like me because my hand is like this, that's why they don't like me. So let us bring another judge that like me. So all these are what Rashi is talking about, that Moshe is saying to the children of Israel, because when you do that, you are trying to pervert justice. When we do that, we are trying to pervert righteousness. Your burden, it says, it teaches us that the Israelites were disrespectful of the judges. If Moshe left his home early in the morning, they would gossip that perhaps something was wrong with his marriage. If he left his home late, they would say, oh, he has been sitting at home and devising evil plots against you and scheming against you. This personal attack comes because he was a public figure. So we can see that no matter what we do, no matter what Moshe do, it is always a problem to the people to the people that he was leading. They will always have something to say. If he leaves his home early in the morning, this is because maybe he's arguing with his wife, or he's fighting with his wife kicked him out of the house. Or if he did not leave the house, if he left the house late, they will say, oh, he's sitting in his house trying to scheme an evil matter against you. So we understand that as a leader, it is extremely hard. As I keep on saying, that the hardest being to live in the world is a human being. Human being we are so stiff-necked that to lead a human being, it takes a miracle. That is why the Torah said that a wise man is a man that can convince another man to do something else that he or she doesn't want to do. That is a wise man. A wise man is not a rocket scientist. Yes, he's wise in his own way. He's not a biologist. Yes, they might be wise in their own way. But a wise man, according to the Torah, is a man that can convince another man to do something else that he or she doesn't want to do. So that is what a wise man is in the Torah. And that's why I'm saying that, yes, it is hard as a human being. I know, as a leader, it is hard to convince every human being. As a leader, it is hard to lead people. I know that they will always look for excuses. They will always accuse you of one way or the other. But the grace of God is sufficient unto us. Your strife, Rashi said, means the family of Israel will always sue one another. They use litigation to solve personal feud and clog the court with this. These three nouns teach us that Moshe Rabbeinu was not complaining about the rejection of his personal leadership and authority, but rather the distortion of God's Torah through the denial of the day-to-day justice. All what the parasha talks about is about righteous justice, to pursue righteousness and to pursue justice. Justice that is justice to the poor, justice to the needy, justice to the widows, justice to the fatherless. It's not that you have your own kind of justice. There's a kind of two tier of justice. Justice to the rich people and justice to the poor people. That is not right, and that is what this parasha talks about. That justice that everybody deserves, no matter what, a poor man, a rich man, everybody deserves equal justice. Now, another thing that I want to deal well in this parasha is the month of Av, We are in the month of Av, and this month is the month when the temple in Jerusalem was destroyed. And we understand the meaning of this. We know that we think in our mind that the temple can never be destroyed because God is in the temple. But we can read in the Haftarah that we read in the book of Yeshayahu, in the book of Isaiah chapter 1 from verse 1 to 27. This Yeshayahu, Isaiah is giving us another understanding, another point of view why all these things happen. It's because of our injustice. It's because our hands is filled with blood of the righteous people. It's because we rejected the God of our fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's because we do iniquity in the land. And God is saying that if you do iniquity in the land, that the land will spill you out of his mouth. And this is what God is saying. For those that do evil in the land of Israel, in the land of our forefathers, those people that fill the land with violence, with blood, with innocent life being lost, God is saying that such a group of people will be removed out of the land, and the inhabitants, the true children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, will come to possess their land. We live in the month of Av. I don't just mean that this is the month of Av. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm saying that we live in the month of Av since the month of the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. We live here. Most of the Hebrew culture, whether we accept it theologically or not, resonate from the destruction of the temple. The theme of mourning and comfort reached as far and resonate from that time even until now. It is also a time of hope. We will survive. There's nothing that can be taken from us that will eradicate our people. The destruction of the temple was horrific, the loss of our spiritual center. Yet, we survive again, and we will survive again. Even though the temple was taken away from us by the Roman Empire, thinking that we are going to destroy and eradicate it, and thereby stopping our faith in our God, they make a big mistake. They didn't understand that our faith in our God, the God of our forefather, is so much stronger than any physical building. For we ourselves are the temple of the living God. And God is telling us this morning that each and every one of us should make ourselves the temple, the abode of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Consider the month of Av as a time of the beginning. Av is made up of two letters. It's made up of Aleph and Beth. The letter Aleph represents the beginning. Certainly as the first letter of the alphabet. Now consider its formation. Av is composed of Vav and two Yuds. These are the pillar, the wings of God's name, which hints that God is present with us. Even though we are in exile, even though we are not yet physically in the land of our forefathers, in the land of Israel, even though most of us are dispersed around the world, but I want to assure us this morning that the God of our Father is present with us, even though in our exile. And he has promised us to bring us back home at the right time. But the Aleph also suggests the paradox of our relationship with our God. It is a letter with no sound. Remember, Aleph has no sound. God is here, but the silence is overwhelming. That's what it's saying. Remember that Aleph has no sound, but this is implicate that God is here, but is silent. His silence is overwhelming. Av, Aleph and Beth. Beth is in Hebrew is bayit, which means a home. God's home. We are God's home. our body should be the temple of the living God. And so therefore, we have, as a child of God, has to maintain it well. We should not abuse our physical body by being a drunkard, being a harlot, being a criminal, being a person that destroyed the temple of the living God. Because when you are doing such a thing, that means you are destroying the temple of the living God. The home of God is our body. We push out we push out our breath and makes a sound in the silence, creating something out of nothing, and we become God's partner in creation. Remember, when we take a breath, the breath is what? It's silent. You don't hear it, right? But when you exhale, it makes sound. So therefore, we create something out of nothing, just like our Creator, our Father who is in heaven, does. The vocalization of our breath is the sound of our soul. We invite God to dwell in our world. We invite God to dwell in our life. Just like Moshe Rabbeinu built the Mishkan in the temple. So therefore, we have to have, each and every one of us has to have our Mishkan, our inner Mishkan, in our soul, in our heart, so that the Mishkan of the living God will reside and abide with us, individually, collectively, and as a community. This is where we live. We live in this month because we always remember what happened this month. This was the month that when the old Yehudim were taken out of the land of Judah, when we were dispersed around the world and taken as a slave to Europe, some of us around to Africa, some to Asia, some to other parts of the world. And so therefore, we remember this month. This is where we live, aware of the possibility of God, overwhelmed by the silence, yet giving sound to our soul. God enter. Our world is filled. The destruction of the temple leaves us in silence. Where are you, God? We ask. Yet we learn to create many places for God to reside. So the paradox, God is here. Where? God is where? Here. So we can understand, even though when they thought that they destroyed the temple, we glorify the Lord that they thought that they can subdue us, but they can subdue us physically, they thought. But our God is greater than them. Because our soul, our spirit is so strong in our Creator, in the God of our fathers, in the faith of our forefathers, that we will not depart no matter what. Because this is a commandment unto us, that we shall teach our children after us the Torah. A Torah to us is life, is a tree of life. And if we abandon this, we are abandoning life. And we understand that very, very well. So therefore, the Torah is a chain reaction. We have to give it to our children to their children. So we will not allow that chain to be broken by any man. For we stand firm on the Torah. We create numerous places for God. One temple that was destroyed creates thousands and millions of synagogues around the world that we can see today. Devarim means words. These Devarim were spoken in the wilderness. And Moshe is still speaking, Moshe Rabbeinu is still speaking this word unto us unto this day. As Moshe Rabbeinu spoke God's word, the wilderness came alive. It was not an empty place, a barren site, not a place where we would wander without direction, aimlessly, or lost, but a place where God would dwell, and a place where God is. The wilderness is not overwhelmed. Indeed, God revealed Torah to us right there. Silence was transformed into word. Aleph moved into Beth, and Beth moved into the Torah. So this is what I'm trying to let us understand, that even though in the wilderness of our life, we are alive. Many people say that. Many people think that there's no life in the wilderness. When you first of all come into the desert, you look at it. Oh, this is empty. No, there is nothing empty under the sun. Even though in the universe, the scientists understand that there is no empty space in the universe. Everything is what is occupied by atoms. Everything is occupied by molecules. There is no emptiness. Something is there. You might not see it. So because you don't see it doesn't mean it is not there. It is there. So in the wilderness of our life, we might think that, oh, it is full of emptiness. But God is saying, no, it is not empty. I am here with you. You are not alone. I am, even though in this exile that I have sent you, I am with you in the exile. Don't worry, I will bring you back home. What you have to do is to do what? To seek justice. To do what is right. To follow the Torah of Moshe. Not the Torah of a man. Not the Torah of the accuser. But the Torah that was given to us on Mount Sinai through the hand of Moshe Rabbeinu by God. So this Torah is what I preach. And this Torah is what I'm telling each and every one of us that we should follow. Not the Torah of a man, but the Torah that God revealed to Moshe Rabbeinu on the mount. Aleph and Beth make up Av. The beginning of sacred speech, from silence to sound, from emptiness to meaning, from singularity to community, from lost to renewal, from powerless to the most powerful, from slavery to freedom. This is what God has done for his people. This is what God is doing for us at this moment. From the people that they call the non-entity to the most recognized people on the planet. Because they think, oh, Israel is nobody. But God said, no, Israel is my firstborn. Israel is my son. And he who touched him will not go unpunished. So we understand that, and so we rejoice in the Lord our God, for we know that nobody that can touch us that will go unpunished. For Israel is the apple of God's eyes, and nobody can touch it without facing the consequence. Even the Torah we continue. Even with the Torah, we continue to wonder. We are not at our goal yet. Yes, because we are still in exile. Our goal is to return home to the land of Israel. When God Almighty, the God of our fathers, must have removed all the bad soul in the land of Israel. And the descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob will come and possess the land. What does it mean to wander for 40 years? This is life. We live in the month of Av. We wonder, we cripple with God's expectation. God's word gives meaning to the search, voice to the silence. Life challenges us with its great joy and deep pain. But we are not alone. God is saying, you are not alone. We are a people on a journey. We are always in constant journey, blending our voices to become a holy community. We are always in a constant journey, the journey to the tree of life, the journey to Garden of Eden. We are always constantly in a journey, the physical journey and also the spiritual journey. And the Torah is telling us, don't be afraid, don't be weary, don't be tired, don't be sick. I am with you. I will bear you up upon my mighty wings. I'm going to carry you. I'm going to make you to fly. Even though those problems that you think is too hard for you, or those mountains that you think that is too high, the Torah is saying, don't be afraid. I am with you, and I will carry you through. See, that is what God is, the promise of God unto us. God doesn't want us to be like our forefathers in the wilderness that came with a negative word, with a negative news about the land. Oh, you cannot conquer them because there are giants there. No. God is saying we have to be like Caleb. We have to be like Yehoshua. We have to be like Pinhas. We have to stand firm and say, we shall conquer. We are able to conquer because he who is in us is greater than he that is in the world. As it is said, righteousness and only righteousness shall you pursue, in order that you shall live and inherit the land. This teaches that the appointment of righteous judges is sufficient to sustain Israel and to cause them to dwell on their land and to prevent them from being destroyed by the sword. Everything is about righteous justice. If we deny the poor about justice, then there is no justice, and then the sword will come and devour the land. But if there is justice and we appoint righteous judges, then that alone is sufficient unto us, and nothing can remove us out of the land if we can do justice, righteous justice. Moshe said, and he repeat, justice shall you pursue. So I'm encouraging us this morning, each and every one of us, to blow the shofar of justice to the world. Let us continue to blow this word to the ends of the world, that everyone should hear the word of life, the word of the Torah, that when you hear it, you can live. Those who want to take hold of it, he said, those who take hold of the Torah, they take hold of life. For the Torah is a tree of life. And I encourage us, everybody that's watching me online, I encourage you to take hold to the tree of life, to take hold of the Torah. For the Torah of Moshe is the tree of life, and there's nothing that can take it away from us as the children of Israel, the true sons of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Parshas Devarim, blowing the word to the world. Shabbat Shalom.